A news
We lost
A news release announcing the date, time, and place of the November 5th, 2019 Legislative Committee meeting was distributed October 29th, 2019 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, and other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance. So we are called to order now, and the purpose of our meeting today is to review the proposed regulations that we got copies of a month or so ago, and then got additional copies of in a different format just a couple of days ago.
You got them formatted in the what you got yesterday, where they were formatted in the format that they will for the most part, be in the state register. There'll be minor format changes. I got to do some tab realignment and things like that, and I've got to add indexes to them. But other than that, this is how they will appear in the state register. There's also some spelling things that I need to take care of, and some other minor details that need to be done, but it is, for the most part, this is how they're going to be in the state register.
Okay, thanks, Rob. And I have gone through all the regulations. I think most or maybe all of my comments were those types of, yep, spelling or grammar or yep, just kind of piddly little cleanup things. Gary and Robin, I guess I'd like to ask you, have you had much opportunity to look through these? We can certainly, I mean, it looks daunting. I've got the whole thing printed out and it looks daunting, but because a lot of them are strike-throughs, it's really not as much material, and a lot of it is also boilerplate. I'm certainly happy to kind of start at the top, and we can go through one by one. We can read them, or we can just pull each one up and discuss it. But I welcome your input right now as to how much you'd like to kind of go through word by word, depending on how much time you've had to spend with them.
I have looked through them once, and I don't have any specific questions to be addressed. So I don't know, Gary, do you have any requests, specific requests or questions?
Gary, you might be on mute. I'm happy to just kind of pull up each one and
yep,
see if we have any questions. Yeah, Gary, we can hear you now.
No, we can't.
He's still muted.
Yeah. Gary?
Are you guys all on Skype? I just dialed in on my phone.
See him up there. It looks like
he's
Skype
on the
thing.
yeah,
So,
he's on
Robin,
the,
you guys must be on phone.
Yeah, I'm on phone.
I'm on phone.
Oh, we lost Gary.
He's connected here. I see him.
yeah, he's still.
I see him on this,
connected
but
here.
he's got the red mute.
Yep.
So he's got to unmute. I don't know that I have the ability to unmute him.
Oh, you can. I think,
I think it's gonna. Well, he just dropped off.
Well,
he's probably going to pick
okay.
up the phone and
Okay.
call.
Well, Lori, I think what you said is kind of how I looked at how we would go through just one at a time, go through and just give you an overview, talk about them, and you talk about if you have any questions or concerns. And also, I just want to let you all know that this is not the last time you're going to be able to revise these things. We still have the public comment period, which is 30 days after it's published in the state register, and then also that ends on December 30th. And then that gives me a few days to package what other comments have come in post Christmas, and then get those to you whatever comments come in at that point in time. And then the hearing is on January the 3rd.
Okay.
So we've got a few more bites of the apple here and then obviously the commission will vote on them at the January meeting, and then I will take them over in General Assembly format, which I've been told is a totally different format than the state register.
Okay. Okay, well that's good. I had noted that there is additional opportunity for comment, so this is kind of a first bite. I'm happy, for just to kind of walk through each one, and Rob, if you want to comment on the intent or whatnot. Did we get Gary back participatory, or are we just going to see him?
Just
He
keep
loves
on
everything. All
I
right.
gotta find out
Okay, so the initial reg is 88-100, license requirements for facilities and programs, and
That's an update of an existing regulation. And you'll see what we do on these things is we're basically taking out things that are obsolete. We're changing addresses. That's the big thing that we do here. We change the address, and then we change the terms and just take out the obsolete things like shelter workshop, things like that.
yeah. So, and I'm trying to. I went through and highlighted, but 100 itself, 105, 88-105 is scope. Is there actually any text in 88-100?
Yes, there. What we're doing is the ones that we are actually changing is the ones you have in front of you. There is no 88-100. It starts with 88-105.
It's an 88-1.
Okay, that's the question. It says 88-100 at the very top of the first, like 5 lines down on the first page. You see that?
Yep.
But
That's it.
88-105 is the first one that appears to have any text.
Yes.
Yes. If you see 88-100, I put that up there. Basically, I was trying to follow their format, and the state registrar told me that was incorrect this morning. So that's one of those technical things that will change.
Okay.
But
Right.
like I said, don't. The stuff that's in the state of reasonableness, all that kind of thing, the preamble, all these kind of things are things that are technical in nature, and they will change.
Boilerplate.
I've got a list of corrections that I need to make for the state registrar.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the first and textual is 88-105 scope.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to prove them all, so they have to prove all the changes.
I know, but okay. So, what we are looking at right now are the ones that we're just going through.
That we're making
and
changes
we're
to.
making changes to existing regulation. Okay,
Yes.
I just want to get that clear, because we do have new regulations, but right now we're just going over the ones that have these, and it is just usually updates of things, right?
Right.
Okay.
For instance, on Article 1, you don't see an 88-125 there. That's because we didn't make any changes to that section.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so 105 scope appears just to be adding autism and head and spinal cord, updating the name of the agency, the stricken Part C there.
Like you said, we're striking things that are obsolete that we no longer do, and we're bringing it in line with our directives.
Yeah, that all looks fine to me. Robin or Gary, do you have any comments there?
Well, it looks good to me.
Okay. 88 dash. Oh, was that you, Gary?
That's me. Okay.
Oh, good. Yeah, finally hear you. Did you hear where we are? We just kind of quickly ran through 88-105. I didn't have any comments, nor did Robin. Are you with us that far?
I am with you.
Okay. All right, good. And I don't feel like we need to take a vote on each one of these. My thought was we'll just run through them and note for staff if there are any issues we see. Does that sound right? Mm-hmm. Okay. 88-110, licenses issued. So we're basically striking all of the things that we don't do anymore and rephrasing as adult activity center, work activity center, or other. Does anybody want to provide any color commentary on that, or no?
Oh, I think, yeah, this is a
Updates.
language.
And 88-120 is a change of address, basically.
Yep, okay. 88-110 looks fine to me. Gary and Robin, just speak up, holler if anything looks wrong to you. 88-120 is the change of address. 88-130, the state director may approve an exception to compliance. I didn't have any comments on that one.
That's how it works now.
Yep. And what you're going to find is everything that these line outs, the changes we're making, most of them are things that we're bringing into modern times of what we do now. They're in line with our direction.
Good. Okay, so moving on to the next section then, 88-200, the definition section. So 88
that'll be Article 2.
Go ahead.
So if you turn to Article 2, down to the text section, Article 2, that is the actual reg down there. And 88-210 is the first one we make changes to. And that is basically the extent of Article 2. It's a set of definitions for the agency.
I do have a number of grammatical or punctuation things in this one. I can tell them to you now, or I can shoot you a copy of it.
Yeah, if you want to shoot me a copy that you've marked up, that'd be great.
Okay,
So
I can do that.
Substance changes, it is just grammar?
Yeah, any
Correct.
kind of any kind of grammar or those kind of changes, shoot me those, and I will. That's what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm changing.
It's nothing substantive. Okay. One question I had toward the end of the definition, where we add the word day, participating in the day program. Is this article pertaining only to day programs, or why is the word day added in the definition of participant?
What are we looking at? We're looking in.
That's the diagnosis, right?
K, definition of the word participant.
Right.
So 88-210K.
Okay.
Is it a day program directive? Is it a... So why do we participate in any? I don't understand the... Is this under something... He's talking about day programs?
Okay. Any person with an intellectual disability
Hey, you guys,
in a day program licensed by the department.
why would you just say participant of a day program and not? It was pertaining to day programs? Yeah, that's all. I would have asked the same question. It's just the actual regulation is pertaining to the programs itself. So
where should I have been able to detect that?
Yeah.
Chapter,
I'm noting that right now because that's something that,
Because I couldn't find it either.
that's something I need to put in the title. So we will do that.
okay. So all of, does that mean that all of Chapter 88 is only pertaining to day programs?
No. 88 is the whole DDSN chapter. It's our agency's
Okay.
chapter in the regs, and you're going to see more as we go along. You're going to see more changes where we're adding entire articles.
So, I guess my question then is, what subsection is it, if it's not Chapter 88 or Article 88, whatever, what subsection is it that only applies to day programs?
Yeah, I have a question.
There is one, day programs are Article 4.
But this is definitions,
In
and
Article
on page 2,
And if this is something that applies to day programs, it's something we may want to just move to day.
well, let's see.
We want to move to the day program
We
section.
have on here, on page 2, it says client, a person who is deemed eligible for services, and do we not use the word consumer now?
We try not
Should
to.
we try not to?
But
Where
there
we
are
try
other
to use-
sections that say client, so we start
Right.
with client.
Okay, because we
Right.
use client and participant. Why can't we just have one name for everybody who uses
Because a
services?
client's a person who is eligible, and a participant is somebody who's receiving the
Participating in the
services.
service.
Right.
So who's a consumer?
They were
No
never
one in the
they
code.
were never in the code.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But that's the term we actually use.
Right. But we are not to use individual or person instead of
Okay.
consumer. However, it like the market to be very still common.
We should use it, those in the definitions.
Yeah. Well, they're in the code.
How about an
Yeah.
eligible person?
Yeah, they're in the code.
Well, with
Okay,
regulations, you kind of have to stick with what's in.
Yeah, we debated that internally as well because we thought it could be simplified, but then we stuck with because it really affects, it really pertains to different phases.
Of somebody's, getting services, yeah.
Yeah.
what
Okay.
did we have to discuss?
So back to, I can't tell if you guys are finished with the conversation, sorry, but back to my inquiry. If the definitions in Article 2 are only pertaining to day programs, then it seems to me they should be within the definitions in Article 4. If they're not only pertaining to day programs, we shouldn't be adding the word day in the word participant. Is that
Right.
correct?
As I read this, as I read this article, it pertains to more than day programs. It looks, because you're defining the state director, you're defining agency.
Yeah.
And the participant
I
being
think-
in a residential program, so why don't we just strike
Right.
the word day?
Yeah,
and just
that's-
leave program.
I think
Put it in there for a reason, but I couldn't tell you right now why. I mean.
okay.
Just as an observation, if you look at G, above the line that we're debating in L, if you look at G, it says it changed from governing board to governing body, and that was the only word change in that definition. The individual or groups that have the responsibility for the agency or organization which operates
The day program, yeah. I mean, this is, I'd have to pull the original ones to see, but
We were working from the code that did not include residential licenses.
right.
So it's just day
So
program
when we were
licensing.
talking about this, there was no residential, we're claiming that we added.
Yeah, that's true. We are creating a day program chapter. I mean, well, actually, we're not creating a day program. We're not creating a day program chapter. We're updating the day program.
Yep. So we are updating the day program chapter. You know, back in the day, that's all there was too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in this thing, I think that taking out day
No, I
No,
don't think
no,
you
no, we
Not-
keep
keep
it
it
in.
in.
not going to,
In.
it's not gonna accomplish.
Even though we have other things that are being defined, it sounds like this is a very old regulation and was probably written when there was only day programs out there that we licensed. No? Yes? I would think so.
That's a problem.
So that's why they have all definitions in there with day programs. So it is a day program definition.
What year was this last? I know it was a long time ago. What was the year?
Right.
Yeah.
So the new, after 88,
88.
yeah, I need to say that. But there are definitions other places.
Right, we've got, yeah,
So,
yeah, I
I
think
don't know
it's,
if the definitions are all supposed to be one or not.
no.
I couldn't really hear that.
Okay.
A
We
lot-
have this is Tana, we have definitions in other places now with our new regulations. So we were just trying to update, what we believe the purpose of that one was from ages ago.
Okay. Because you've got another set of definitions within Article 4, day programs.
Right.
As long as they match.
Okay, well, we don't have to, we'll keep going. I just wanted to flag that. And you guys can figure out what's the best way to resolve it. I just,
I think that's probably the original article would be easier to read from, and then that way you know why it's there. It'll get you more context than just something pulled out like this.
yeah, I've actually got pulled up on my laptop the existing regulations. So I can just look at them cleanly as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just, as you said, Rob, the entire Chapter 88 is DDSN generally, and so the definition in Article 2 should be those that are applicable to DDSN generally. And that doesn't preclude the use of the word day. If it's only day program people who are called participants, then maybe that is what you want. That begs the question of what do we call night program people, residents or whatever.
You mean in the
We've got one
residential?
defined.
Yeah, we'll probably call them participants too.
So that's just a little inconsistent there, but you guys can sort that out.
We'll sort that out.
Okay. Jerry, Robin, anything else in Article 2 before we move on?
I did not.
Okay.
I'm good.
Uh,
I'm good.
All right, great. Article 3 is the one that's entirely stricken, right? Recreational
Yep.
camp for persons without. Okay. At the very last page of Article 3, it looks to me like there's just a stray line of text that didn't get deleted when somebody was
Yep.
going through this.
Yep, I got it.
All right, good. All right, Article 4 then, day programs for persons with ID. By the way, will the titles get updated too, Rob, since it's no longer
Yes, they
just
will.
persons with ID?
Yes,
Okay.
they-
All right,
Yes.
good. Okay. So 88-405 is where we have our definitions that pertain to day programs. I had a number of little, punctuation things here as well, but I'll send those along. Yeah, all of that's really punctuation. The only one that's not strictly punctuation is in definition E. I think it should start to be kind of grammatically consistent with all of the other definitions. It maybe should start with a team comprised of the participant, his or her representative, the program director, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Every other one starts with the noun,
All right.
an event, a goal-oriented program, a collection of supplies. So a team comprised of the.
Gotcha, that's easy.
All right. 410 personnel. I don't think I have anything there. 415 facility. Yeah, I didn't have any substantive comments. I'm looking 430, 435,
So I had
40.
I did
Go
have
ahead.
one observation. We seem to treat first aid kits, and this is sort of the worst kind of micromanagement. We do sort of treat them inconsistently, whether we're talking about a vehicle under 420. We talk about a first aid kit, which is replenished after each use, and then jumping ahead to within the plan for medical care, each facility is required to have a first aid kit shall be maintained at each program site, but we don't say anything about it being replenished. We took out being checked. You know, I don't know if we need to have consistent language of essentially saying a first aid kit, which is replenished after each use and is checked routinely. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I don't know why we took out the checks on it. And I don't know why it's inconsistent between the two places we refer to this.
Well, we can certainly add that.
And I'm just asking the questions as to
Replenished first aid kit, which I see was replenished after each
Yeah.
use. And then the next
under
section,
425. Yeah, we go all the way down to first aid, section D. It says a first aid kit shall be maintained at each program site, but we don't have any requirement at all about being replenished
okay,
after each use.
which is replenished after each use.
Which would also, to me, be more likely to be put in a standard versus,
What was in the regs.
they were, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
I maybe
Correct.
it seems interesting to have that in the regs, but if
regulation.
we're going to be doing it, let's at least make it consistent. Is my thought.
Are you thinking it should just talk about the presence of a first aid kit and not dictate about replenishing it or checking it?
Or it should just be the same in both places.
It should be the same as what he's saying.
And,
It should
and then
be-
have it the same in both
Yeah,
places?
he's saying it should be uniform in both places.
Yes.
So just
Replenished after
say-
each use.
Do we need to tell people to replenish it in a regulation?
I didn't think so, but we.
How- what if
it's
you-
already in there?
What if you just keep a second page on my hard copy, which is under D, it says a first aid kit shall be maintained at each program site. What if you just said a first aid kit
Should be maintained.
shall
in
be
each vehicle.
maintained in each vehicle?
Yeah,
And
and
it's
fine with
parallel.
is that okay
Yeah.
with that? The
That's-
standard cover needs to be in it.
Yeah. We did spend a lot of time talking about first
Yes,
aid
they
kits
did.
and the contents of them and reading the contents, because you go to the website, there's a standard contents list, and then you didn't have to worry about it. And obviously, everything needs to be usable. So we tried to back off, but that is a good point about the parallelism.
Yeah. Yeah, that might have been my, I was thinking, I don't think we need to put the whole in the
No.
regulation.
Back off of that.
That was the only comment I had there.
All right.
Okay. Any more in Article 4 at all? 440 records, or, yeah, I think that's 440 records. Anything there? Robin, anything?
I was curious about, on page 22, 88-425 under medical care. Why was the routine medical care in here? Or in the place 1 and 2 was renewed, I guess, and I guess I'm curious why that was removed.
I don't understand.
So Janet, let me just paraphrase that, because you're breaking up a little bit. She was asking under 88-425 medical care, why was the routine medical care stricken, which referred to being examined by a licensed physician within 12 months prior to admission or within 30 days of admission.
So at the time that we were doing this.
You come sit up
this is
here.
a day program.
Hold on just a second, everybody. Janet's going to come up and get closer to the mic. Yeah.
So the original chapter had 9 articles. All of those articles only dealt with admission to a day program or the licensing of a day program. It had nothing to do with residential. And having a physical examination within 12 months prior to admission to a day program was we found, or we have understood it to be burdensome to families seeking admission into a day program.
The routine medical care?
A
burdensome?
physical examination, a written physical examination. They could have had medical care that the physician didn't write up. Then in order to be admitted, they'd have to go back and get a physical examination form completed and bring it to the day program.
Okay. Okay.
And nothing's prohibiting them from getting routine
No, right.
exams
Yeah,
after
no,
admission.
right. No,
This
that's
isn't going to withhold them or delay them.
And the case manager encourages routine, having a primary care physician and having routine medical examinations.
Okay. Okay, good. All right.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so, and then anything on 440 or 430 evaluation, 435, 440. I did not have comments on any of those. And I'm assuming that the people who run these programs will probably have more comments, not what any of us do, so.
Yeah, true.
We're looking at instruction. All right, let's move on to Article 5 then, eligibility.
Okay. Article 5 is the first of our new articles, and that's why the whole thing is underlined. It's all being added to the regulations. This is one that I am still talking to the registrar about how to break it up into different regulations. I left it as one reg, and then knew that I was going to have that conversation with her. So I'm having that conversation with her tomorrow morning, as far as where to put the breaks in this regulation.
Okay. One thing, if you're having that kind of structural conversation, assuming that Article 5 is governing eligibility for both day or residential programs, I wonder if it maybe ought to be replacing Article 3 so that it comes before Article 5 day programs. Because eligibility, if it's for both, seems like that's a more general topic and ought to be for the beginning.
Now, this is eligibility for services in general.
Okay, so that encompasses both day and residential, right?
Right, just getting services from the agency.
Any service, not just
Okay.
influenza.
Okay, so that I guess exactly what I was asking. Just as a structural matter, then it seems like it ought to come before the more specific articles on day programs.
But I don't think I don't think we're allowed to renumber them.
We can't, yeah.
This is a new one that we're in.
Okay, well, in that it was a brand new one, I thought maybe you could replace Article 3, which is being entirely stricken.
Oh, I see. You mean put it in with the recreational, where the recreational day camps were?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll let you do that. Rob will have to ask.
I'll have to ask if they'll let us do that.
Because then you'd have two of them with the same number. One we're asking to be deleted, and the other one put in. I'm not sure how whether they'll let you do that or not. Yeah, because it might be too confusing. Yeah.
And you also
We can ask.
Have to what?
I'll ask and see. I think you have to stay with what we originally drafted.
That's true for the notice.
Our notice of drafting.
Yeah, right.
I think we have to stay with what we're.
That's true.
Or we have.
Okay.
And I think that's what.
No biggie.
Okay.
Yeah, no biggie. Just a structural thing.
Right.
Okay. So, all right. So then, 505A, intellectual disability. 505B, related disability. 505C, high-risk infant, at-risk child. 505D, autism spectrum disorder, and 505E, head and spinal cord injury and similar disability. And then there's the F that gives DDSN eligibility may be established in a time-limited fashion. I guess my only comment on this was on the autism one, and this is not terribly substantive, but so we initially say the department defines autism spectrum disorder as included, or I think that should be as defined, in the APA's DSM-5 or most current edition. And then we say autism spectrum disorder is, and we define it. So I'm not sure why we have both of those sentences either in there. We're either adopting the DSM definition or we're giving our own definition. Why do we have both sentences in there?
It might not be necessary to do that. I think it was just giving some context to the area of disability.
Okay.
I think the most important one is the first sentence.
What's that?
The first sentence is the most important one, clearly. So you could delete the second sentence if you all wanted to.
I mean, the only reason I bring it up is because we reference DSM-5 or most current edition. Well, what if the DSM-6 has a different definition that's different than that quoted language in the second sentence? Then we have in our regulations two different definitions of autism spectrum disorder, that which is provided in the DSM-6 and that which is quoted.
Sure. Good point.
Okay.
And if it felt necessary, I mean, you can always incorporate it by reference, essentially putting in language that says we define it as included in the DSM-5 as if fully reinstated herein. Basically, you just insert that. So the changes are easier for them to make it the DSM level than it is for us to come back and change it at a regs level.
Yep.
If you felt like you needed to have something like that.
I think reading it the way you all are discussing it, I would just recommend deleting it. And we go further below to hit all those words again in the diagnostic criteria. So I think it'd be kind of self-evident. So I think it could stand alone without it. Do you all agree?
I agree. I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it just makes it a little cleaner. Yeah.
Lori, if you don't mind, if we look at how it's structured for intellectual disability, or section A of that same article.
Okay.
It also says, under diagnostic criteria, department defines intellectual disability as outlined in APA's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, 5th edition, current edition. It says the same thing, and then it goes on.
Well, that's what the diagnosis
and then,
is based
but we're
on.
actually using the criteria there. So does that fit in the definition section? We do talk about.
That's what the code says.
What the code, it's directly from the code though. So
Right.
that's structured a little differently in the definition section. Is that
Yeah.
look all right
Because
to
we
you
didn't
all?
have the definition of autism spectrum disorder
In the code.
In the code.
So that's why it's kind of different.
And that's why the regulation's being written, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why they're.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We're told to
We're told to do it right.
I was gonna say that.
So if it was in the code, we wrote it as if it was in the code. It just so happens with autism spectrum disorder, it wasn't in the code, so it's structured differently, referring only to the DSM.
Got it.
5 or latest. There's no code to cite there. We just wanted to make sure that you all understood our logic.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Thank you.
Thank you. One thing, this is kind of a general, just kind of question or comment. So the use of related disability, that modified intellectual disability, is that correct? So it's intellectual disability or related disability, comma, autism, comma, brain injury, whatever. The related disability is just talking about something that's related to intellectual disability?
Similar to, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's defined, yeah.
Okay. like there are several places. If you go back to 88-210, the way it's punctuated, like it says, offers programs to persons with intellectual disability, comma, related disability, I assume that should be comma, autism, comma, head and spinal cord injury. Like it's not clear what related disability refers to. And then on the next page, in the definition of participant, K, it's got intellectual disability / related disability. I just would like to see that kind of used consistently throughout so that it's clear. Is related disability its own thing? Is that a subset or a modifier or, to intellectual disability? What is it? And so it needs to be punctuated the same way.
Yeah. You're right. It does need to be. It needs to be commas rather than slashes.
Yeah.
Because the code is saying that it's related to intellectual disability.
Right.
Yes.
It's not a slash. It's a comma. It's a
So
separate
we can go and do a word search and correct that throughout. But yes, it's its own disability, and in its definition, it indicates it's related to intellectual disability. But everything should not. It should all be a comma in between intellectual disability and related disability.
Okay, so like each one is its own item in a series, basically.
Yes.
Right.
Intellectual disability is an item, related disability is an item. Got it, okay.
Yes.
Okay. That is everything that I had on Article 5. Gary, Robin, did you guys have anything on that article?
No, I did not.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Article 6 then, day license requirement for community-based housing for adults.
You can take out day. Day's a stray word there that I didn't pull out, so that will be corrected.
So it should just be license requirement.
License requirements for community-based housing for adults. That's what we have in the.
All right, good. All right, so then we've got our definitions in 88-605. Yeah, I don't think, this is where I started getting in a rush when I was reviewing, but I don't see anything that stuck out at me there.
And again, it follows our current licensing directive standards out there. So it's not new content. It's organized in this format.
So, Susan, what you're saying is this is the content that is essentially in internal policy. It's just new to the regulations. Is that correct?
Yes, we were asked to put it in regulation, so we've largely lifted it and reformatted it. The content's really just copy of the content.
Okay, good. All right, I don't have any. I don't have any comments.
Sorry. Am I correct in saying that ICF, we don't need to do that because that's
has its own
regulation?
Section.
Yeah, I mean, is that correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are the ICF regulations other regs within Chapter 88?
No, we don't.
They're under DHEC, right?
They're DHEC
We
regs.
have, we don't license the ICF.
They're federal regulations, and they're licensed through DHEC.
Okay. But there are state regulations on them as well, right? Just not in
Right.
Chapter 88?
Yeah.
Right, DHEC owns that.
right.
So those would be in DHEC regs.
These are only things that we.
Okay.
And that's also the conversation that you're going to have P&A, I think, coming up in the thing if they want to go through Medicaid. When we get to appeals, we're going to talk about, if they want to talk about Medicaid appeals, we can't put that in our regs because that's in DHHS's regs.
Right. That makes total sense to me. It's a little incongruous to me. I mean, I don't know that much about ICFs, but why community-based housing would be under DDSN and ICFs would be under DHEC is a little incongruous to me.
Well, we define I mean, we,
Care facility.
yeah,
It's considered an institutional care facility, and so they license them like they do the nursing home
Healthcare.
licensing, CRC,
Healthcare.
Healthcare.
It's healthcare, yeah.
right.
We don't do that one,
It's Medicaid funded healthcare.
right?
Okay.
That's why we define
All
right
right.
off the ones that we're responsible for.
Okay. Article 7, appeal procedures.
Yep, this is appeals.
And as Rob said, this is the one that's going to have probably the most comments because people think that what we do is DHHS appeals and we don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Like certain things that we have the authority to have appeals about.
So, I totally get that. I agree with you, and I totally get that, and we won't get off track on that. It is a little curious to me that we define, for instance, respite in an article on appeal procedures. Shouldn't respite be defined somewhere else in an article, in definitions on services we provide?
You know, this is, again, the areas that we have the right to do an appeal, that people can appeal through DSN. That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
But
We're
the
not-
areas they can,
Defining every service.
Yeah, we're not defining all the services that we provide.
Just what can be
you're
appealed.
defining respite.
Right.
You're defining respite.
That's an area
I guess
where,
that's... Go ahead.
And we defined all of the services that can be appealed.
right.
Under 88.710, which is
Yeah.
later, it lists those services, and so therefore we've prior defined
Yeah,
them.
and they are necessarily the state funded. They're state funded community support, state funded follow along, state funded case management, state funded respite, state funded residential habilitation.
So it's not the funding under the waiver.
Right, I get that. I totally get that distinction. What I'm saying is, within the services that we do provide, it seems very odd to me that the place we define some of the services we do provide, such as state-funded respite, is in an article on appeal procedures. That has nothing to do with appeal procedures. It's a service. It's a service that can be appealed, but it has
Right.
nothing to do with appeal procedures.
That's why we're putting it under here, because we're saying what services we have the authority to handle any appeals about. State-funded services.
Okay, so y'all just disagree with my...
There were
You
nowhere
just
do we
disagree
define.
with my comment on the structure.
That we've defined those. There's not enough chapter that discusses all the
No, I mean,
services.
there's nowhere basically where we say all the services we provide.
Which is not very good regulations then. I mean, we ought to have in our regulations a definition of the services we provide. You shouldn't have to look at a chapter called appeals procedures to find a definition of the services we provide. That's my point.
Services could change. There could be new ones that come on board. There'll be ones that are deleted for some reason, so I don't think we want those in regs.
You don't want a definition of the services you provide in reg?
Because you don't know
Because
But how many- there could be some that change.
You can add things to them and take things away over time.
Well, that could be made for having them listed in appeal procedures as well.
So would you,
I think the risk comes about because there's nothing within this that says that these definitions are applicable solely to the appeal procedures. It just says definitions. So there's nothing that states that these definitions are applicable only to this article and are not meant to be applied outside of it. Which is my understanding is staff's intent is that these definitions apply only to within internally Article 7, essentially. Is that correct?
Well, no, I mean, a definition of respite services is going to be, basically across the board if you're looking at what, in general, what respite services would be. But it does, 88.710 said decisions that may be appealed are these ones that we're talking about.
If a person were new to South Carolina and they wanted to look in the statute or the regs and find out what services DDSN provides, where would they look?
On the
On
website,
the website.
and under each waiver, there's information listing the definitions, waiver information sheets for each waiver service,
Okay.
state funded service.
The only thing that's in the Code of Laws is about the Family Support Program. It's in the Code of Laws, not the regulations. It's at 442160, and respite care is listed. Individual and family-centered assistance services such as respite care.
Right, but under our general statutes, it doesn't talk about, we just talk about services. It doesn't anywhere.
Right, that's just generally, family support program services are provided by DDSN.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, we go to standard.
Go to what?
If someone
Standard.
wanted to appeal a denial, how do they know what they can appeal? What service they can appeal?
What's
That's
listed
what,
here,
Yeah,
that's why the
what it
regs
says, yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the answer.
because in 88.710 that they're saying what they can appeal. Everything else is a DHHS service, and they're the one here that appeal. There's a difference between what we call reconsideration. So when somebody goes through a plan review, their hours might be reduced for some reason because of the reviewer
Right,
sees
yeah,
it.
that's happened. Yeah, that's happened to us before.
Reconsideration. That's us. But when the word appeal is used, that appeal is over at HHS.
Or anything that's a waiver.
That's waiver. But there are state plan services that HHS cannot hear an appeal for. We do. And these are the ones that are listed.
That's why we say that these are the ones that appeal are solely funded by the department.
Yeah, we don't use any Medicaid money to do it.
And I think we're at understanding that's what we're discussing as far as what could be appealed. But going back to sort of Lori's point then, if we just assume that respite is defined elsewhere for all other purposes, why are we defining it in this particular section for appeals?
They want to be appeal procedures.
It's one of the appeal procedures.
But again, what I'm saying is I don't think the services are not specifically defined in the statute. It just says services.
So would it
Or
be better-
regulation.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean we say you can appeal state funded respite. We say that 88-710.
Right.
And we assume that people have a definition of state funded respite from elsewhere. Correct?
Well, maybe we should call this state funded respite.
That's
We
what's
just-
missing.
Yeah.
Let's call it state. I think that would fix it if we call it state funded
Yeah,
respite.
and you need to say state-funded case management. It's state-funded family support services.
Okay.
You need to say
Yeah.
state-funded in front of all of it.
Okay. We just put state funded in.
I don't know why that would not have been. Okay.
So you're saying add the word state funded
Yeah.
under those services defined under 88705.
Yeah, 'cause we got them. Yeah, we
Right.
got them on the other ones. We just missed those. Many times as we looked at this.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Would that make it easier so they understand we're not talking about just any old respite, we're talking about state-funded respite?
I think it makes it more clear for purposes of the appeal. But again, getting back to Lori's point, this question of why we're defining this. Why do we have a definition?
Because it's something that can be appealed and people need to know it's a state funded respite that can be appealed.
And we felt like since we listed it in 88710, we
You
needed to have a
to have a
definition
definition
for
of
it
it.
in 88705.
So basically what it looks like is anything that you're writing in the body of a document that you're talking about, you have to define it
For the purposes of this.
for the purpose of the regulation.
Yeah.
So that's really what they're doing.
Right, and we do say state.
It's
funded
redundant,
follow-
I agree.
We do say state funded follow along and state funded residential rehabilitation. So it just it would make more sense just to say state funded
Parallelism.
of case management,
And in front of family supports program.
family sports and respite.
Even though
and-
family support is only state funded, put the words in there because it
Yep.
makes it clearer.
And again, within the definition, if you look at the difference between state-funded community sports, it specifically says they're not eligible for other waiver. Are we going to add that language into the rest? You know, because again, if we're limiting it down within the definition, because as it's defined right now, even if you put state-funded in front of it, there's nothing that actually says what the state-funded part of it is in the current definition.
Well,
State funded defines it.
Yeah, in
Only
that,
defined by
Gary,
state
I see what you're saying, but all of these state-funded services pretty much are for people, you know, if you're not on the waiver.
I know that. I know that. You know that. What I'm saying is some lawyer, okay, down the road who is not part of this particular meeting is going to look at that and say, that definition says nothing about the source of the funds. And therefore, it applies to all respite individuals.
Okay.
That's why we're saying we're going to put state funded in front of it for all of these.
Right. I get that. And then again, if we're going to,
you want to add that, but are not eligible for department-operated Medicaid?
That's not applicable to services.
But that's not
only applicable to state-funded community supports.
Okay.
That contingency does not apply for those other services.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the issue is simply putting the words state-funded respite. You're defining what respite is, but you're not defining what state-funded is. Okay? So you call it state-funded respite, but there's nothing in here that differentiates that respite from all respite. See what I'm saying?
So are we just going to define what state-funded means?
Okay.
Money, non-waiver, non-Medicaid, fully funded by the department.
I think that would certainly protect us if we did. And again, it's. I agree with Lori. If you have a definition somewhere, somebody's going to latch onto it, and unless it's very clear, somebody's going to miss it.
Yeah, I can see that.
It doesn't hurt to be clear.
Yep.
It's a good idea.
Okay.
No, and I thank you for thinking like lawyers.
Yep.
Yeah, we can't help it.
Well, you know, that's good.
No, that's good. Again, this is one of the ones that we're going to get comments from PNA. So I appreciate the.
Well, a lot of folks think that everything goes over to Medicaid, and we've got state.
No, I think we do.
They think we're responsible.
But I also have hearing officers at Medicaid hearing things like eligibility for our program, and they shouldn't even be hearing those cases. So that's fine.
This will help us be clear with those hearing officers as well.
Okay.
Is that the appeal procedure for family support? I'm confused now.
Where?
Right here. Is this appeal for them?
I think it should have been over to the right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's in the wrong place.
I think it should say state funded.
State funded, yeah.
We're looking at 88710, that last line that says family support services. We want to tab it over and put state funded in front of it.
Yeah, it's just stick there.
Not a heading.
It's just not.
State funded family.
Yeah. And
Okay. We just never put that.
Does that sound palatable?
State funded.
Yeah.
State funded.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just looking. I'm not going to hang us up on this. If I can't get over it myself, I'll write a comment. But it's still bothering me structurally that there is no place in this regs that lists what are the services we provide. We list the types of facilities that we license, but where does it list the types of services we provide? Nowhere?
Isn't that in chapter 88 that talks about the role of the department?
Well, yeah, but you got to remember these regs were written quite a while ago, and I think that services have only been defined in our waiver documents.
Yes.
And
standards.
In our standards, and because they weren't added structurally, they didn't change the code of law. And
The question, I guess, is did we put it 210?
I just would, if we put all the services in the regs, when we update, which we're getting ready to do, update the waivers, are we going to cause ourselves more problems because they're not all either, if we come up with something new or we take something out and then we have all this stuff listed there, we're going to have to go through this exercise all over again. I think that was our initial hesitancy to say this needs to be in regulation.
Well, we also should not put, I mean, I don't know that we should put waiver services in here because of the waiver.
They're not our,
Again, that's
technically.
not our program.
Just
We don't own-
contractors.
We can't, we're
Yeah,
company
we don't
contractor,
own
run
that,
those programs, we
and-
don't own.
And those waiver services are defined in DHHS's.
I can see language that says an array of in-home supports, and but again, the users of the in-home supports, the state-funded part is minuscule compared to the Medicaid-funded part of this. So I'm not sure that.
Right. So I would not, even if we were going to somewhere list the services that we offer, obviously we wouldn't list waiver-funded ones. But there are some services that we do offer, state-funded ones, and it just, it seems to me they ought to be in regs, but I could be wrong. I mean, I hear you, Mary, about you don't want to have to update this every time you scratch your nose, but I'd be very curious to know if other states typically list in regulation the services that they provide.
And I don't know. I can look, but I don't think so because again, most states are not fully state funding. The only thing that we provide is just a very small portion of supports with state funding. Everything else is Medicaid waiver funding. What did you have something?
Yeah.
No, I missed it 'cause I ran to the ladies' room, so I don't know what the issue is.
I was, the Code of Laws talks about DDSN and what DDSN is to provide, and it generally lists Family Support Services Program, and so and
That's BabyNet, right? BabyNet B. I mean, BabyNet B.
No, it isn't. You got to remember when this code of law was written.
There was no BabyNet.
There, basically it was kind of generic, saying that we'll support the family. We do operate. There are programs out there, but they did not get very specific.
Right.
Because this was in the infancy and programs were being developed. So the code of laws themselves do not have specific programs written in there. That stuff's found in your waiver documents and your standards, your directives. That's where that's found.
In my mind, this is just my lawyer brain, but in my mind, the Code of Laws, the statutes are supposed to be broad, as you say, and the regulations are supposed to list the specifics. It's not supposed to be done in internal documents within the agency or just website documents. It's supposed to be in regulation. That's just kind of my general approach to it. And it does mean that you would have to update the regulations when you update your services, but frankly, we should have been updating regulations a lot more than this agency's been updating them.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason this lawsuit went on for 10 years. So this is our first go-around with actually writing regulation. So I just... go ahead.
I might be kidding myself at the state level, but, at the federal level, agencies update their regulations every year without question. And so maybe in South Carolina, agencies aren't updating their regs that often, but I have a sense that we should be revisiting them annually. And I mean, I would guess that most years there's not a change in the menu. We have a very limited menu of services anyway that are state funded, and I would guess most years there aren't changes. But it's a way that the public can know through a process that's subject to public comment and review what are the services offered by the agency.
And that would just be the state-funded services. There's so many more items that are out there in the waiver services.
I'm only talking about the state-funded ones. I'm not talking about the waiver ones. I'm only talking about the state-funded ones. It would be listing them in regulation would be a way to notify the public in a way that's not internal documentation. What are the state-funded services that this state offers?
I also think that it would be limiting the knowledge of if they think when they looked at our reg that that's all there is, to me that it would also be a little bit of misinformation going out to the public.
Well, they're
Meaning
probably
what?
going to look. They're probably going to look at your website first, but in a court of law, the regs would be what they would be, tying you guys down to. Because I don't know.
Yep. That's right.
Well,
So anyway,
okay, this is the first swing at this for just to settle that lawsuit. It's not to say that this is the last regulation we're ever writing, which it probably will not be. And we definitely have to update language much more often than we do now, because we shouldn't be striking things like a camp that we haven't licensed in God knows how long.
Right.
And we shouldn't be striking words like mental retardation that should have been out a long time ago. So you're 100% right, Lori. So I think that if we could just get the 4 that we told them that we would do through, then this legislative committee needs to be a little more active than it has been in years past. I totally agree with that. Not going to get an argument from me.
Well, I mean, the statute itself just talks about, DDSN shall coordinate services. So they had at that point in time when this was written to, name services, and they didn't. Again, I think they left it pretty broad because there'd be the idea that the services will be expanded through contracts and all this other stuff. So,
when you say they, you mean the legislature?
Yeah, the legislature, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, they do need to legislate in a broad way. They should say the agency will provide an array of services, but the agency is the one that writes the regulations, and it should, in my opinion, be specific in regulation. I think one reason we're finding ourselves right now striking language about camp and mental retardation and all of that is because this agency fell into the trap of updating everything in its internal directives and policies and standards and didn't bother to update it in the regulations. And that was not the right way to operate, in my opinion.
They did not. And also thinking that they couldn't actually strike this language in their own regulation, thinking that a legislator had to support it. And so the knowledge that we can go ahead and update our own regulations that need to be updated, I think that is kind of a new way of thinking.
If structurally Article 2 becomes the definitions for the entire chapter and we move all definitions in there, would we not in fact be defining
everything?
State-funded case management?
Because
if you move, if Article 2 definitions is for the entire chapter,
right? Anything that's
suddenly
everything's in there.
We are defining.
I could do that.
I think that would be a beautiful place to define state-funded respite, state-funded family support services programs, all of those things that are now in Article 7 that are not actually appeal procedures. They're definitions of services. I think we fit beautifully in Article 2 definitions.
Improve it.
It's just organization.
They'll get another chance to approve.
They'll get another chance to
Okay,
approve it.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
As long as you say that's okay to do that and put it in the register without you guys approving it again before it goes in the state register.
it's not changing any of our headings or anything. We would just be moving
definitions.
We're moving. No, well, there's already definitions.
We're just going to move.
No,
We're beefing up that definition reg.
okay,
That's what we would be doing.
okay.
The existing reg.
Who was that speaking? I'm sorry. Who was that speaking that just made the suggestion to move it to Article 2?
That was
Janet.
Janet.
Yes.
This
Okay,
is what she
thank
does.
you. I just wanted to know. What?
She's an expert on
Just wanted
this.
to know. Yeah. That I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's exactly what we need to do to make it more structurally logical. So, okay, we've taken a ton of time. Are we ready to move on from Article 7 then? Were there any other comments on the actual appeal part of the language?
None for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then let's look at Article 9,
Or Article 8.
unclassified.
Actually, we have Article 8 first. It's research.
So I skipped right over that. I think I must have mine stapled backwards. I'm sorry. Yeah, I do. I have mine stapled backwards. Okay, research. I don't think I had any comments. If anybody wants to kind of give a little explanation of this, I would welcome that, but I didn't have any comments.
It's again one that P&A said we needed to have, even though we've never done any research on persons. They insisted we have this as a regulation.
Okay, then.
And we did it.
And we wrote one.
Did they give us the language by any chance? I'm just curious. Like,
No.
We have a directive that talks about different kinds of research and the protocols and the review committees, and so we've just put that language in here.
Okay.
So for instance, somebody was working on a doctoral dissertation or a study to answer a question about services, then they would have gone through their own IRB, Human Rights Committee, before we would even review the request. So we're not doing experimental medical research of any type, which I think was their precaution from P&A. They were concerned if they wanted something to protect against that, but we don't have the ability to approve that kind of thing as it is.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Stating the obvious.
All right. Then are we now ready to move on to Article 9?
We're now on Article 9.
Okay. Unclassified facilities and programs. Somebody please tell me what that is.
Go ahead.
What I have here. This is the changes that we have made here are technical changes for the most part. It's a catch-all for it's kind of a catch-all at the end of the regulations. Is what it looks like to me.
What is it in fact used for?
Example for an unclassified program facility. I think that would be a better way to.
So Chapter 88 historically and currently, Chapter 88 primarily deals with licensing of day programs. It said the camps and the whatevers. So that was the primary thing, and this Article 9 was already there. As we have changed Chapter 88, we have defined the kinds of licenses that we will issue fairly specifically as an adult activity center or work activity center, and now the residential kinds of settings that the department will license. But there are at times other kinds of facilities that require a license because the code says in one of these, no program shall be operated in part or full for blah, 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 more than 3 people.
Yeah.
So essentially, we have had a program that was called Caregiver Relief. It was a pilot. It was in a facility.
Okay.
There were more than 3 people intended to be there. We were not going to be providing any sort of residential setting, so we couldn't license it that way. It was not an adult activity center, and it was not a work activity center. It was an area that was perceived at the time as a need, and we needed to do it in a licensed setting because the 88-105 said we had to, and 88-915 gave us an opportunity to license it not as a specified license.
Okay.
So in other words,
So that's very helpful. Would that correlate to 88-110-3, D3, 88-110 D3? Other?
Correct. Right.
Okay. Okay.
So when
That's good. I just, I asked the question just to make sure that we weren't making technical corrections only without also examining whether it's a used or still useful code section.
I personally think it could be very useful in the future whenever you consider piloting different features. And then we have a lot of people who just pop up with
Idea or something.
ideas.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But at least it's some way
okay.
to assure that the 88105 is met.
Got it. All right, that works for me. Any comments, Gary or Robin, on that?
No, I'm good.
None for me.
All right.
Okay, so now,
Well-
what to do?
Okay, so, if y'all, I guess if you'd like to vote on sending these forward to the state register, and, like I said, again, we'll take all of these changes, and incorporate them into what will go into the state register. And then that will be published on November the 20th, or November 22nd, I'm sorry. I believe, make sure, yeah, November 22nd, third Friday in November. And then, going forward, we will, we'll get comment. We'll take comment that will run to December 30th, and then we will have the public hearing where we will have another chance to make changes.
Good. Good. So I will ask for a vote then with the changes that we discussed today and some technical, grammatical punctuation type changes that Rob is going to make. All in favor of sending this packet of proposed regulations forward to the state register, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'm also an aye, so it's unanimous.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you for that. I appreciate that.
And that's all we had on the
Thank you
agenda.
very much. Apologies again that I was late. I, again, thought it was 5 o'clock. So, and it's now quitting time, 5:30, and we got done just in time.
Thank you.
So, thanks, guys.
Hey.
Take care.